Welcome to another Coronavirus Journal live YouTube show thing. How you doing today, Patrick?
Pretty good. Got a nap in for the first time in like a month or two.
I had a nap today as well.
I forgot what that was like. It's pretty nice.
It's so pathetic. If I do anything athletic, my body just gives up and I have to take a nap like a little infant baby.
That's what getting older does.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of older people that don't require naps after playing tennis or going kiteboarding or something. So I think there's something wrong with me. Maybe it's my soy boy mentality. You know, I need more of that real protein. Mm-hmm. My body's not getting enough. You don't have an excuse, though.
No, we made empanadas today.
How were those?
Pretty good. The dough was a little too thick. I mean, it was thin. I was like, these are going to break apart. But then when we baked them, it became thicker. So I think the dough needs to be thinner next time, but they were pretty good.
Okay. Well, do you just want to get to some of these videos here?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we got incredible news, you guys.
Dagan, in a shocking turn of events, the experts were wrong. Their estimations of what was going to happen and their numbers were massively off. I'm going to point to one piece of news that I particularly liked. I saw 73% of small businesses had reopened. I think Larry Kudlow said closer to 80%. Maybe he was rounding up a little bit, or maybe my number's just a little bit off. Either way, it is a big number. Small businesses, the lifeblood of our economy, of our country, the American dream personified, they are going back to work. What do you think?
They are going back to work, and with all due respect to my fellow Virginian Charlie Hurt, it isn't about President Trump. It's about the people who still don't have jobs and have not been called back to work. And not to throw cold water on this report, but if you look at a broad measure of unemployment and underemployment, people who want more hours and can't get them, it is still north of 21%. It is 21.2% of Americans aren't getting enough work or any work at all. So that is more than 1 out of 5 Americans who are in the workforce who need more work. That is what needs work. And I'm optimistic, and I think it's important for, quite frankly, everyone to be optimistic in this way, because caution and conservative behavior by businesses and by individuals and consumers, it can turn this slowdown into something that is very long-lasting if you aren't optimistic and don't encourage people. It's called hysteresis, where the things that cause this downturn go away, but it persists, because slow growth begets slow growth. So we have to encourage people to go back out there and get back on the job, particularly after those unemployment benefits, the extra $600 a week, those expire at the end of July.
I mean, at the end of July, we still have another almost 2 months of that. And
Of what?
The unemployment perk, you know, of the extra federal money.
The $600 doesn't end July 24th?
That's just what she said. End of July.
You're saying, okay. You're saying from now we still have another month.
2 months, right? It's
Yeah. I thought
beginning
you were
of
saying
June.
at the end of July we still have.
No.
I misunderstood.
No. And then I've got another clip here from the money people. Let's see. Market recovering. Once again, everybody's just acting like 13% unemployment is great and we're out of the woods here.
One more way in which the economy in this case is confounded. So, I mean, the market's had it right.
Yeah, it's funny. There wasn't a day that we came in and we heard from very big people, rich people, hedge fund managers, saying that this is ridiculous, that it's fanciful, that the rally itself is completely uninformed. I admit, look, there were parts of me that just said, are you kidding me? Every morning the airline's going to be up big when very few people are flying, and we got the hotels up big. Well, it turns out that the hiring took place in the areas that we felt were most devastated: retail, travel, leisure. And it's remarkable because when you're looking for 20%, you've got all your scripts all set to talk about the beginning of the next Great Depression, and then you get the actual numbers, it kind of knocks your socks off, and you struggle to think, why did we hear so much woe is me? Now, the other side says, well, we heard it because 13% is still unfathomable, but it's certainly more fathomable than 20%. So I don't know. I mean,
Jim,
it's good.
It is good. And the president right now is...
So basically, I think people were expecting 20% unemployment, but then some jobs report came out and
13%.
13%. I mean, that seems incredibly low for what we have just gone through. And that I don't think we're out of it, but maybe we are. Maybe coronavirus is gone now. But I don't know. Like, these guys on TV are just kind of acting like, everything's better than we thought. Like, I guess we were wrong.
I have a couple other clips here. I don't know if this was my clip or your clip.
This is mine.
Okay, we both have the same clip, I think.
Oh, really?
I have a couple more, and every one of them, it's the same news, but they're all like, am I reading this? Wait, no, like, this is just coming in. This can't be right. Every one of the clips, people are astonished at how different, and it makes me wonder, because your boy Peter Schiff's always like, these aren't the real numbers. You aren't taking into account these other groups of people and people that aren't actually submitting.
And underemployed people.
Yeah, like I'm curious, a lot of our audience is photographers. Are you guys feeling employed the same way that you were? Like, I don't know how that works, right?
Yeah, I don't know how that works either.
Do you guys have your weddings back and your jobs are back and everything's fine? Or do you feel like you're on the other side of being closer to unemployed than employed with your own jobs? I just wonder, is this all made up? Like, this can't be. And if it is, I'm not so sure it's permanent.
I hope it is. Here's what Trump said.
Tweeting as we speak. It's a stupendous number. It's joyous. Let's call it like it is. The market was right. It's stunning. Tagging you, Jim. And then adds, it is a stunner by any stretch of the imagination. Now, some will look at the NASDAQ futures today and suggest, okay, are the stay-at-home stocks going to get dinged here? But what's important to focus on?
Well, I think what's important to focus on is that for day after day, we have seen the airline stocks go up. And they're now, the government gave these companies money, and the government has giant wins in all of these. I wonder whether the government takes it, but it does show you that before we even saw places to go, theme parks, say, retail, people were going. And I think that there must be a perception among many parts of the country, and David, I think this is something you and I talk about a lot, that, this is not my perception, I'm just saying this is the perception, that COVID-19 is behind us. That's a dangerous perception, but it must be the perception.
Must be the perception. So you have one more clip about this?
At least one more. That one and the one above it. You can click the one below it first. They're basically all the same. We're getting.
I want to get to NBC's Tom Costello, who is in Washington for us this morning, has covered these jobs numbers for many, many years, including during the Great Recession. You and I covered it together, Tom. Yeah. Do we have the number yet from the Labor Department?
We do, and it appears to be a stunner, much better than expected. Non-farm payroll employment rose by 2.5 million jobs in May. Unemployment rate falling to 13.3%. That is down significantly. We had feared that we could be at a 20% unemployment rate, and in fact, it has dropped. It has dropped from 14.7% down to 13.3%. We had feared.
So that's interesting. So we never had 20%. We had 14%, and we went from 14 to 13, and this is what we're so excited about?
Yeah, they were predicting it was going to be 20%.
Okay.
But we've been saying 20% for like last 2 months, right? When we keep adding the numbers up of the number of unemployment paychecks or people going to the unemployment office.
And not get, yeah, I think there are still people or polls that believe it is closer or over 20%. But technically speaking, with the way that they do the numbers, it's only 13% now, technically. But in reality, it might be higher. But, you know, you have to say, if we always gauge these numbers by some metric and it's never accurate, well, that's fine. It doesn't matter as long as it's consistent.
Right.
That we may have as many as 8.3 million jobs lost in May, and in fact, that is not the case. The unemployment rate dropping in May, and the talk all along has been that May or June could be the time when we start to see things turning around as businesses start to reopen. The question is whether the headwind's going to be like for the economy going through the rest of the summer and into the fall, with the pandemic really still very much a factor across the economy. But this is a better than expected situation. The May payrolls up by 2.5 million in May. Not down, surprisingly. The unemployment rate dropping to 13.3%. That is much better than expected, Savannah.
Much better, a stunner. Glad to see some good news. It really wasn't expected. And in fact, as I turn to NBC senior business correspondent Stephanie Ruhle, let's unpack this a bit. We knew there was going to be an economic bounce back. We saw the reopening of many, many states and businesses, although at a slower pace. Nevertheless, many economists and experts would tell you you're going to see this higher unemployment.
She's got that mask droop, mask droop syndrome.
Once you see it, you can't not. Just watch it.
So dangerous.
Employment rate in May, and it won't even reflect the true extent of the damage. How do you explain it actually going down, which is, of course, just amazing news?
Well, it's really, Savannah, about the economy reopening. We saw the biggest job loss when states first shut down. But now that we're shifting into reopening, you're seeing a lot of those jobs come back in specific industries. You're seeing it in healthcare, education, construction, manufacturing.
Pause that for a second. Are these new unemployment claims? At one point, weren't you supposed to add all these up? Are these just the unemployment claims are going down? 42 million unemployment claims.
Yeah, 42
million is only 13% of the workforce? Because that's about as high as we've ever seen. Back when we all said, that's 20%. I thought we were basing that on 35 or 40 million back then. So does it just go back to what you're saying? It's just the way they technically count
Well,
it?
you're right about that, because I thought we talked months ago that the number of jobs in America was around 150 million.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, I mean, that's getting close to a third, 42 million. It's less than a third, but you know, it's getting up there. It's over 25, I think. So yeah, I don't know how they're doing these numbers.
Other industries that have been hit the worst, think about this: travel, retail, leisure. They're going to take a lot longer to come back. So it's more of a bifurcated number. And one thing to point out, black unemployment. It remains getting hit the hardest. COVID hit African Americans the worst. We're seeing that in unemployment. 20% of black women in this country lost their jobs between February and May. Why? Because they occupy more of the low-wage service jobs. And that's one of the reasons you're seeing people protesting, saying we need to address education and opportunity equality.
All right, let me turn, Stephanie, to NBC's Peter Alexander at the White House, where this news will certainly be greeted with a lot of happiness and relief, given what was expected. And what is Washington planning to do here? I mean, unemployment benefits that had been extended run out in July. What's the plan there?
Yes, Savannah, likely that we'll hear from the president touting this good news when we see him before he departs to Maine a little bit later today. The president's biggest political asset, of course, has been the strength of the economy. His best hope for re-election just 5 months away is that it quickly rebounds, and this may be evidence that that's beginning to happen. The president's remained optimistic that as these states lift their social distancing restrictions, things are going to bounce back. He's been reluctant to pursue a new massive relief package. He's been against extending benefits for laid-off workers, even though economists and the Federal Reserve chairman have pushed for more spending. But these numbers do have demonstrated a grim reality, especially for minority communities. There's certainly still work that needs to be done. And the president's aides and allies have worried the unemployment number would still be above 10% at the time of the election this fall. On top of that, the president has tried to put the virus in the rearview mirror. The White House is deeply concerned that the protests we've seen in recent weeks, these huge crowds in cities across the country in the wake of George Floyd.
Patrick, your clips are too long.
Somebody is saying this is 13% of the population, not the workforce. Could they be pulling some craziness with that?
What? They're like counting babies?
Darren H. says that's 30% of the population, not the workforce.
Give us a source for that, because that wouldn't make any sense. If that's true, then now, you know, now the number's probably close to 30% unemployment.
I mean, that's what it is. If you take 42 million claims that we just saw and you divide it by 330 million people, you get 12.6%.
What?
I mean, I don't know how they calculate all of this out, but it does seem ironic that that comment is pretty much dead on the money.
That
42 million
seem,
divided by 300, I did 333 million.
What in the hell?
We should probably get to these super chats. They're building up
Oh
here.
my gosh, we got a lot. Jurgs says clips are still playing at 1.25x, not 1x. Yeah, sometimes I do record them at 1.25 just to get up and go. It's amazing that this person's capable of even noticing that. Like, I watch everything on YouTube at 2 times.
Yeah.
It's just...
That feels slow to you?
Yes, I was like, why is this clip keep going? But you...
Well, sometimes Kramer gets on there and he's already just... And then I speed him up because I record at 1.25.
Oh, you do?
It's a sweet spot.
Yeah. Daniel says, more complete proteins, Lee, plant-based or not. Get in Mo. Naps are good, especially with outside fitness. I'm Team Patrick with empanadas. Call tonight. Stuart at Large says, unemployment is crazy. I have been on unemployment since March. The money has been almost as good as the job I lost, including the $600 bonus. I have applied to 423 recent job postings, and I have had one interview. No one is hiring. He can't really mean 423 recent job postings.
I mean, yeah, if he's been on since March, I mean, every week, don't you have to submit some amount?
423, come on.
I mean, if he started in March, I don't know when in March, but like several of those months, I could see where that adds up.
Stewart also says, just started in photography late last year, but I am seeing more bookings now.
One thing that was interesting is I was talking to my sister. She thinks she will not get her first unemployment check for another 2 weeks. So she's been unemployed now with no money coming in for like over a month, month and a half, maybe 2 months.
She's got good savings though, right?
Yeah, but I think you just want to know that you're not going to get scammed and not get the money and it's there and you want the money to come in.
I mean, the unemployment is retroactive, right? So it doesn't matter when it comes in.
But I think if you're in her shoes or in shoes of somebody who's unemployed, you feel like you want to get the money, right? You just want to know that you have that.
Sure.
But she was saying she's been applying to jobs and it seems like the wages have all come down. She says nobody is paying more than $15 an hour. So many people, one of the smartest things you can do in America is to take a job and then to quit that job every couple of years and apply for a new job and use that as a way to increase your pay. Statistically, I think if you stay in a job for 40 years, the amount of pay increase that you get is so small that you're better off constantly leaving jobs to try to get a pay raise. So she was just saying that, like, not only will I have to take this hit, but going into the next job, I will lose,
all the momentum
that I had from the past. So she was just saying all these jobs are for receptionists and stuff at dental and medical offices, people to greet and sign people in. It's going to be a horrible, boring job, but it's like $15 an hour. And, she just had a baby, so she starts saying, if I have to go to work now and I have to pay to have somebody watch my child and have child care, the child care could easily make it to where, like, it's better, it's like a no-brainer to sit on unemployment.
Yeah,
and just take that
the person might charge more than $15 an hour
Yeah.
to watch the baby, and you're making $15 an hour.
Right.
Absolutely. Let's see, we got a few more super chats here. Jurgisek says, unemployed down because PPP hitting and continued unemployed claims went down because people paid by employer now, not state. PPP deadline to use funds extend
End of the year.
End of year.
So there were
I
some
haven't
new,
heard that.
there were some new PPP guidelines that came out today, and I tried to quickly read about them, and I got too busy. But maybe that's what it is. I think they're now saying you don't have to use them within the 6 weeks, maybe, that they were good for. You had the 2.5 times, and you had to use that within 2.5 months or something, and now that's been extended. So
Until the end of the year?
I don't know all the details, but I was trying to look something up today for the show about the PPP guidelines.
I got to figure out how to get some of that PPP. Daniel says, seeing more buzz with photo jobs, budgets are much lower though. And then Stuart at Large is back. He says, 423. Did I stutter? So he claims that he actually applied to 423 jobs. I would assume that is with the power of the internet and some website that can mass shoot. I mean, it's not possible to find 423
Well, was Stuart saying he was
local
making
jobs.
more money than he was previously?
Yeah, about the same.
So wouldn't you just do the bare minimum for unemployment? What is unemployment going to say? You need to apply to 5 or 10 jobs a week?
I
and
know, but
show
he
us
probably needs to just protect himself for at the end of July. You know, he's got 2 months left to find a replacement job. But yeah, you'd want to plan it perfect. You want to like get the job locked in, but not go to work until the end of July.
Yeah.
So that you can stay on unemployment as long as possible. And then maybe, if you're a photographer and you got side work coming in with photo jobs, you get the unemployment, you get the photo jobs, and then you take the other job at the end of July. That's what I hear so many people are doing. They're trying to stay on
8
unemployment.
weeks extended to 24 months.
Why would they do that?
Well, this next person's saying 24 weeks. Oh, he misspoke. That's Charlie. 24 weeks. So what does that mean? That means if you took money, you're issued a PPP, and you took in all this money, and then somehow you wound up being able to open up sooner, and your employees now are being paid from the income that the business is bringing in, Does this mean now that the money that maybe you didn't spend all of it all can now go towards your rent? I was seeing an argument, maybe it was Kramer, who was saying, like, you can lower costs of goods. You can lower salaries. You can lower hours. Like, there's all these things you can do to save money. But the one thing you can't lower is your rent. Your rent is locked in, and unless you have a renter that's going to, like, help you out, that cost can't change. So maybe by extending the PPP, maybe people have an abundance of money through the PPP because we opened up sooner than we thought? Is that the narrative? And now the government is saying you can spend that within 24 weeks, which gives the business owner a little bit more time.
Oh, 24 weeks, not 24 months.
Well, he said months, but then he revised it to weeks.
I see.
He wrote out months instead of weeks. So maybe this is just helping the business owner pay the rent because now they have this surplus of PPP money.
I thought the whole point of the PPP was for you to keep your employees on and pay your employees not to work. I thought that was the whole point.
I know, but we opened up sooner than what we thought, I guess. Is that the narrative? Is that we didn't go the full 2.5 months?
What does that matter? I mean, that seems like that would be even better.
It seems like you're just paying your employees through a different mechanism.
Yeah.
You just continue to pay them through the PPP
Yeah.
when you're open, but now you're taking the profit that would have gone to them and you're just pocketing that. But I don't know. I don't know the logistics of why that's a good thing to extend that. It seems like everyone should have spent the money that they were calculated to get based on their liability when they went to the bank, right? I should get 2.5% of, or 2.5 times this amount.
Yeah.
And that would have been spent by now, I guess, but I don't quite understand.
Stuart at Large says the interview he has tomorrow is $7.25 per hour bartending from the $35 per hour he was getting.
Doing the same job?
I doubt it.
Is
I've never heard.
$2.25, is $7.25 a good bartending job?
I think that could be I mean, you could do great making $0 an hour as a bartender if you work at an expensive enough place where you're getting
$100 an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never done food and bev, so I don't know how all that works. Certain people get paid out of the weight, the tips, and then other people don't.
So strange. I was in like low-level food and bev, so we didn't get tips at all. I just made like the $8 or $9 per hour, and that was it. Did you see that an Amazon warehouse was on fire?
No.
This is crazy.
We're following some breaking news
We don't
right
know.
now. Check this out, a massive fire. This is happening at the Amazon Distribution Center in Redlands. It was first reported right around 5:30 this morning, and these are live pictures that you're looking at. Look at the thick black smoke, and those flames are still going strong. That smoke is rising from the warehouse. Officials, they say they're still not sure what may have started this fire. We will, of course, keep you updated as the story develops.
I mean, how insane is that? The entire roof has collapsed.
Yeah, are we looking at the roof with fire coming through, or are we looking at the ground and everything is out?
I think that's the roof that fell in.
Gosh, I wonder how much that cost.
Yeah, so I've got another clip here.
I just seen people scattering.
Chris Smith and Aquira Canteen tell us they were among about 40 employees already at work at this third-party distribution center for Amazon.
Within 15 minutes, the whole back of the building collapsed and exploded.
Canteen later learned her car was one of the vehicles outside that burned. The two tell us it's fortunate everyone got out.
I didn't hear no fire alarms. I didn't see no fire sprinklers. Nothing.
That is highly concerning. We're looking at a modern building with the latest advances installed inside the building regarding fire protection systems. It's highly concerning. That's why we're bringing in outside resources to help us look at the cause and origin.
Fire Chief Jim Topolewski says it's unclear what started the fire and too early to say if it's possibly connected to another 3-alarm fire just down the block at Splash Kingdom Water Park weeks ago. However, he does tell us the speed at which it spread through a structure he's guessing is 300,000 square feet or larger is alarming. How unusual is that? Is that what you would expect with this type of structure?
Highly unusual.
So I heard somebody else say that this distribution center had a rule that it would not hold any flammable items. Now, I don't know what that means because I would imagine there's like household goods that are somewhat flammable. Maybe that meant non-explosive. But they were saying that it should be almost impossible for a building like that to go up in flames. I mean, it's made of steel and concrete, so the building itself shouldn't burn. And then the stuff that's in the building shouldn't have been flammable. So
I mean, everything's flammable. It's just nothing should have, like, no lithium batteries or no
Yeah,
pressurized cans or cleaners. Like there's all kinds of stuff that's flammable.
Yeah,
It's combustible, I guess.
That's
pretty wild.
All right, so
This was the big story late last night or early this morning. This is people are comparing Joe Biden's comments to what Hillary Clinton said when she said many of Trump supporters are despicable. Have you seen this?
I haven't seen this thing with Biden. I think maybe I read a headline, but I didn't see this. So this is new to me.
We'll have to address these issues straight on. And the words the president says matter. So when a president stands up and divides people all the time, you're going to get the worst of us to come out, the worst in us all to come out. This president constantly talks about equality without lecturing, talks about and has administrations that looks like the country and the rest. It changes attitudes. And it's about the attitude of the country. Do we want our kids, do we really think this is as good as we can be as a nation? I don't think the vast majority of people think that. There are probably anywhere from 10 to 15% of the people out there that are just not very good people. But that's not who we are. The vast majority of the people are decent. We have to appeal to that, and we have to unite people, bring them together. Bring them together.
That is not offensive to me in any way.
Yeah, I don't find that all that offensive, but boy, was social media lit up today about that.
I'm sick with this outrage culture, man. It wears me down. It wears me down, and people act like they're so offended, and then they will just forget about that tomorrow, and it'll be the next thing that they're offended by.
Well, part of the problem is Trump has said so many outlandish things that we are used to it. But if Biden were to be the president, I mean, I don't feel like anybody should be saying 10 or 15% of U.S. citizens are bad people. Did he say very bad people? Like, I think that's a bad look for any presidential candidate.
I don't know.
In today's society with Trump and everything he says, I feel like it didn't really seem that bad. But
I mean, what percentage of people go to jail, It's like, it's got to be somewhere 10 to 15% of people. Like,
what?
Is it not?
People that have gone to jail?
Yeah. Let's look
Like
it up.
ever? Or, I mean, I've been to jail
know.
once
There you go.
As an 18-year-old.
You're a very bad person.
But I don't think you could say I'm a really bad person because I tried to roll some girl's
Watch
house
me.
with toilet paper.
You're a vandal.
And I got caught.
So currently behind bars, 0.7% of the population.
Okay, that's very different than anyone that's ever gone into a jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you're going to find that stat, but
I don't either. It's probably not the best thing to try to look for live on the air. Somebody find that statistic and put it in the chat. But yeah, I just feel like, I don't know, you're falling into the outrage, like, oh, the president shouldn't be saying that. I mean, maybe I agree, but at the same time, I hate that politicians can't say what we all say or what we're all thinking, and they just have to, like, go by a script every time they get on TV. That's very frustrating to me. And that's probably the one redeeming factor Trump has, is I'm like, that guy's not going on script. He's literally going to say whatever he wants to say. And it's kind of refreshing, I feel like a lot of these politicians are fake.
I've seen several messages in some of our WhatsApp groups and on social media and stuff where people are saying, like, these riots are going to be the perfect atmosphere for Biden to announce a black female running mate very soon.
Okay.
Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think that's going to happen? He's already said.
Of course. I think he said he would do that.
Well, he said he would get a female.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a black person, and it's just, I don't know. It all that seems like what the definition of racism is to me. It's like you are choosing someone based on their race.
Because it serves your political...
Exactly. So, I mean, it seems like people should be offended by that.
Well, do you remember when I don't know if it was on our show, how long ago it was, but somebody pressed him, are you going to nominate a female tonight? And he felt like, yes, I will. It felt like he was trapped in a corner.
Mm-hmm.
And so now he's in that world. But
yeah.
Somebody else was also saying, like, a decent friend of ours was saying, like, cue it up. Like, these cops are going to get off on these charges in October. They're like right before the election. I feel like, isn't that too soon for a trial to happen and everything? Like, do you think that those cops could all be tried as soon as October?
So they're going to get off, and then what are you saying? The people are going to be so outraged that they're going to vote against Trump?
I don't know if people are going to vote against Trump. I just think like all these riots are coming back. Like, I'm not so convinced. I had that clip yesterday that said that guy was saying, oh no, there's these drugs that were found in this guy's bloodstream. And you were saying that he was saying, I can't breathe, well before they even pulled him to the cop car?
I believe so.
I think there's going to be, there's going to be a way that the judicial system finds that those guys not guilty, at least of the crimes that they're being charged with.
Yeah.
It's very, very likely. Whether or not that's prejudice or racism or not, I don't know. Like, it takes a lot to say somebody's going to go to prison for 40 years, Like, there has to be no evidence. It has to be a very clear-cut case that, like, that guy deserves it. And I think we think he deserves it. From what we've seen, like, it's an outrageous crime.
Yeah.
But when you start throwing in things like there's other drugs and he had COVID, and I mean, all this dirt's coming out on him.
Yeah.
I just think that, like, there's a very good chance that those guys could get off, Are you 100% sure that he didn't have something else going on, and that's why he said, I can't breathe before anything, but before he was even on the ground,
Yeah.
And I could just see that happening. Truth be told, I kind of expect that to happen.
Yeah.
And so could that happen sooner or later? Will it happen next year? I feel like these trials normally take forever. What is the guy from the Jinx? I always like trying to follow him. Robert Durst?
Robert Durst.
And they've been charged with crimes for like years now, and I keep thinking, like, when is the next thing? I want to know how that story wraps up, but it takes so long.
Didn't you say they're working on another?
I think they're doing
season?
the Jinx too.
Guys, if you hadn't seen the Jinx, it's the best documentary ever. It's on HBO. Check it out. DC says, as a live theater photographer, my jobs are gone until schools and theaters can get back to productions. Hoping soon, other job doesn't cut it. Yeah, we wish you the best of luck. So speaking of outrage culture and everything, I felt like people are pretending to be outraged with what Biden just said. And Trump came out today. I don't know if you've seen the outrage on Facebook. Facebook is the only social media that I personally have. So I have seen many people posting today that Trump said that George Floyd is looking down on us happily because the unemployment numbers are going down. And George Floyd would be happy.
That's what Trump said?
Okay, so
what?
So look at this article here. This is the article that people were posting on Facebook. And if you just read this first paragraph here and really notice where they've put the quotes. It says, Donald Trump said he hopes George Floyd is looking down right now, end of quote. And saying the decline in U.S. unemployment announced on Friday is a, quote, great thing that's happened for our country.
Okay.
So I saw this on Facebook, multiple people posting it. I read this article.
Did Trump say he's looking down at the change happening in America and he's saying it's a great thing that's happening for our country?
I don't want to tell you what I think Trump is saying.
Do you have a video?
Yes, I have the video of Trump saying this.
Oh, that's quite the setup there, Lee.
And I'm interested to hear what you think.
Equal justice under the law must mean that every American receives equal treatment in every encounter with law enforcement, regardless of race, color, gender, or creed. They have to receive fair treatment from law enforcement. They have to receive it.
Okay, so far, he's completely taking the side of Black Lives Matter. He's condemning the death of George Floyd. Okay, you would agree?
Yeah, it's not enough though.
Here we go.
We all saw what happened last week. We can't let that happen. Hopefully George is looking down right now and saying this is a great thing that's happening for our country. This is a great day for him. It's a great day for everybody. This is a great day for everybody. This is a great, great day in terms of equality. It's really what our Constitution requires, and it's what our country is all about.
Yeah, there's nothing about the economy and unemployment. Does he continue?
To be fair, I could not find, and I really tried to find it, I couldn't find the whole speech. So maybe he was talking about, right before this, he was talking about how good the job numbers were. I'm pretty sure that's the whole reason for this press
But
conference.
Trump's thought process goes, it's much like mine. I can't focus on one thing for too long before I have to jump to another thing.
Very slow.
I don't know if slow is the right word.
Dim-witted.
I'm like juggling a lot of things.
Foolish.
No, none of those.
Idiotic.
I mean, you might be talking about Trump.
Stupid.
But not me. But yeah, like what he just said there is not outrageous at all. Like it's definitely not what that quote from the other news article said.
Yeah, so, I don't want to jump to conclusions and say that I know for a fact, what Trump was saying. But it certainly appears that this is like the definition of fake news. And I saw everyone outraged on Facebook, and I even posted this clip. And I was like, am I looking at the wrong video right now?
No.
Because maybe there's another video
where he says that exact same phrase, and
maybe it seemed unlikely, but before I went live on the internet, I wanted to have the information, and people still acted outraged at this. And I'm like, he's saying that it's horrible and it can't happen and it's unconstitutional and we have to have equality.
Well, Lee, we all know this. People don't try to do what we're doing and look at both sides and make sense of it all. People either love Trump or they hate Trump. They can't say he's an idiot and this and this and this, but like in this instance, he seems to be treated unfairly. And then on the other side say blah, blah, blah about, Biden or whoever, but also Biden. Like nobody can compartmentalize two opposing thoughts and come to a middle ground at times. Everyone is just, Trump has, when was the speech? Was it today? Yesterday?
I think it was today.
Okay. Because I keep hearing the narrative that Trump is just not talking about this at all. I keep seeing Don Lemon saying that like Trump just talked about SpaceX all day on Saturday. But I've seen other news stories where they're like, that's not true. He's spoke here, here, and here. Maybe he hasn't come out to the country like a normal president would do and say, I'm going to have a State of the Union to everybody, and I'm going to talk to the people, like presidents in the past have done. But
let's see. Somebody's posted. U.S. has 5% world population, 25% jailed people. 1 in 17 white men and 1 in 3 black males will spend jail time. At some point in their life. 13th documentary. Don't know what that means. So you are the 1 in 17 white males. You're a vandal.
Does mine count? Like I was in jail for like 12 hours. Is that?
Yeah, it counts.
It counts?
It counts. I guess I almost went to jail for my Mary Poppins incident.
Maybe. We don't know how close you were. We don't know how close you were.
The Missing Link says there is an MSNBC video with the jobs context. That's not very helpful. You need to post an actual link. And I missed Photog's Mike's super chat here. He says, you can't use any of that, Patrick, for a defense of the police unless the cop who killed him knew those facts in advance.
Is that true?
Well, okay, you were talking about George Floyd like being intoxicated, saying that he was he couldn't breathe and stuff. I don't know. If somebody is saying they can't breathe ahead of time, and I think you could either say, okay, he's telling the truth and it's probably drug related. Maybe he's having like a panic attack type thing or something.
Yeah.
Or you could say he's lying and trying to like not get arrested or something. He was out of his mind on drugs, whatever. So when you are restraining him and he continues to say he can't breathe, you'd probably feel like, he either wasn't telling the truth before or he's having the same issue that he was having before. Again, I'm not sticking up for the cop. I'm just saying like this is what the defense is going to be for sure.
Somebody said that he was claustrophobic and that when he got into the car, he had like a panic attack.
No, he was saying he couldn't breathe before he was in the car. And
but isn't there a period of time where you can't see what happens in the car? Like, aren't the video clips missing like a 30-second window?
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think there's like a period where like the footage from all of the cameras don't show like he gets thrown in the car. Maybe I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
I'll need to
I
watch
thought
it
that I
again.
read that there was this 30-second window where something's not accounted for, but I don't know. It reminds me of this opening scene. I can't remember it well enough, but it's like the movie Magnolia. Have you ever seen that? Where it's like somebody tries to kill somebody, but they intentionally miss and the bullet goes out the window, but at the same time a guy's committing suicide and the bullet kills the guy, and it's like, who, you know, do you have to know the preconditions of somebody? This will all get fleshed out in court, you know. This will be a big, big court case.
Yeah, that's interesting. Did you hear about the hitman? I think it was in China. Did you hear about this thing? I think it was in China. I could be making this up. But somebody hired a hitman for like 250 grand to kill somebody. And that hitman hired someone to do the job for him for like 100 grand. That guy hired someone for 50 grand. That guy hired someone. And it kept going. There were 5 hitmen hired. And then the last hitman, who only got paid like $1,500 or something ridiculous, tells the guy who needed to die, was supposed to die, hey, can you just fake your death? And then everybody got caught.
What?
It's a crazy story. Let's see. Samuel James says, F-Stoppers replaces Snopes. Yeah, I try. Like, I want the truth, you know? So if I'm wrong, let me know. I'll be happy to say if I'm wrong, but it certainly seems like everybody's outrage on Facebook is fake news currently. Angel says yesterday's link to nitric oxide was not nitrous oxide.
So I realized this after it ended. I think I put a link to nitrous oxide, and my dad asked me on the phone, and he never said, like, can I use nitrous oxide in my office? I don't think he went that far with it. Maybe my mind went there, but he said something like, have you heard about nitric oxide or nitrous oxide being able to cure coronavirus? And I don't know what he said. I just jumped to nitrous oxide because my dad's a dentist, and that seemed like the most logical thing. But then when I found the video clips, it's nitric oxide.
Okay.
It's like off by one nitrous. It's like N2O versus NO. So it's not the laughing gas, but it's another.
It's a totally different thing.
It's a different gas. It's almost, you know, spelled the same way, but it's nitric oxide.
But dentists do not stock it.
No. But my dad, to be fair, my dad never said, because I have that in my office. He just said, have you heard of, and I think I misheard over the phone what he said. So it's like a weird, just
see, we're not very good snopers. We're bad snopers.
Hey, I still linked to the right video, though.
Yeah. Briley Ranger says, as adopted sons of Mofongo, are you going to participate in Puerto Rican elections? With everything that's happened last year, it's going to be very interesting. I will definitely consider it. I want to be an educated voter.
Yeah.
And I don't want to come here and just vote on things that could potentially help me. And I don't want to, like, just hear one thing and then vote on that because it's one of the few things written in English or whatever. So
you also don't want to vote blindly and then be a part of an outcome that you don't understand.
Yeah. So I will definitely consider it, but
the biggest one, and I don't know much about Puerto Rican elections. I've registered to vote, so I can vote now. I don't know when the next election is, but like the big one would be voting for our governor. I feel like maybe that I could feel, because Wanda has just been placed into power because we overthrew the last guy, you know?
The last guy or the last 3 guys or something.
Has it been that many now?
I don't know. I can't even keep track of what's going on.
Ricardo, and then...
I don't know. It seems like people are appointed and then they immediately quit or thrown out or whatever. And again, it's like I speak Spanish so poorly, almost not at all, that it just doesn't feel right for me to vote right now. Somebody says, watch 13th documentary on Netflix. Okay, I will look into it. Photog Mike says, don't listen to me. I'm a liberal hippie. Carl Hancock says, he said jobs and a good economy are the greatest thing that can happen towards race relations. His plan to address systemic racism is a good economy.
You think there's some truth in that?
I mean, I could certainly imagine Trump saying something like that. I mean, to be fair to Trump, I mean, hasn't unemployment for all races been at an all-time low over the last 3 years? I mean, that has to be good for everyone, but that does seem strange to, you know, to link this horrific death to better unemployment numbers. Like, that seems
But the
crazy.
video we just watched, he used the exact words, but it wasn't, maybe
it wasn't
like
directly related to
maybe
that.
a sentence or two later he pivots to talking about the economy now, but I don't know. I'd have to know more before I
Well,
comment on
if
that.
anybody, you know, has information that shows that I'm wrong and Trump literally was saying that George Floyd would be happy because unemployment dropped from 14 to 13%, I will gladly share that video in tomorrow's Coronavirus Live, whatever the hell we're doing is.
I think the story that's probably going to be the title of this video after this is posted is probably the video down below. I think you have to play these 1 and then 2 and then the one that you're on first.
Okay.
So this is by far the biggest story of the day. Have you seen this?
I have. This is the old guy getting pushed and then
Yeah.
bleeding out of his ear. I mean...
Have you seen this angle? I started with
No.
this angle. People think this angle's worse, but then the next angle is the one you've probably seen.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen this angle. I've seen the other angle. It looked like the guy was arguing with the police. They were telling everybody to get back. The guy didn't get back. They pushed him. It did not appear very hard, but maybe the guy's really old.
You always take these crazy sides.
Like, how is it a crazy side?
Play the video.
People
and we'll
are pushing
argue.
people all day, every day in these riots, and you're not outraged. You're outraged for this one because the guy's bleeding out of his ear. You're not outraged because he was pushed violently, right? You're outraged because he was injured.
We have another video from 3 or 4 days ago where the police push another old man with a cane. I feel like it's very
that
similar.
seemed more egregious to me than this video.
Well, roll the tape.
So at this moment, I mean, we can't hear what he's saying, but it definitely appears like he's not being aggressive towards the police.
I think the narrative is that he has a police helmet and he's saying, "Hey guys, here's one of your helmets."
Is that really what's going on?
I think that's the narrative.
I mean, that's insanity if that's what's going on. It's like the video.
And they just started this like march with like very few people there. It's not like they're holding the line. I don't know what's on the right of the camera, but
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like this is a dire situation where they're like, we must push all the people forward now.
That's a great point.
This almost feels like a little trial run or something. But
Yeah.
who knows?
I agree. I mean,
oh, you hear like
that's the thing. Like
this clip, you hear that head.
That
The
guy-
other clip, you don't see it.
You don't. You're
This
right.
you see like the head straight on the concrete.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The guy is not pushed very hard, but you can tell he's very old and his head hits hard on the pavement.
Up a little. Oh, you're playing it again.
Dude, how hard do you have to hit your head to immediately start bleeding out of your ear? That's not normal.
I didn't know about the bleeding out of your ear thing, but they
You didn't? That was
Is that
like
common?
Oh, you're saying?
No, I know he's bleeding
Oh,
out of his ear,
okay,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know that like you could just hit your head and then have blood.
I
gush-
know that seems like
It's like your inner
you're
ear is
dead.
that thin or something.
No, he's fucking bleeding and you're doing nothing. He needs medical attention. He's unconscious. No sense in that shit at all. Yeah, trapped and instead you're making it worse. Come on, man.
That's basically the end of this video. And then if you play the next one and try to look at it, maybe the guy does have a helmet in his hand.
You're right. Yeah, you like this was the clip that I had seen before, and I always wondered, like, did he hit his ear somehow? What's going on? But it just seems like trauma, definitely with that head.
Did the guy say he's leaking?
Maybe.
What the fuck you walking up on me? I'm on the ground.
I mean, you can see now there doesn't seem to be that many people left either.
No.
Back up. Back up. Get off the steps. Let's go. Get back. Get back.
Better get an ambulance for him.
We have EMT on scene.
It's so wild that we live in a day where we have so many camera angles of things that have happened. There's probably another camera mounted somewhere, and you can see the street footage. You know, we can piece together just a crazier thing. The video just above this is the outcome that happened of this. 2 up.
Tell us more about the investigation, Erica.
Yeah, well, Stefan, this news is just into our newsroom within the last 30 minutes. According to the NBC affiliate in Buffalo, 57 members of that specialized squad resigned in disgust. They're furious with the way that 2 of their members have been treated. Here's the video.
Okay, so I've seen a bunch of videos today, and they were never clear as to why all of the members of the police force resigned. What she just said sounded like they're upset with the way the police officer is being treated, not the way that this old man is being treated.
That is what I've gathered from social media, is that 2 of these officers, the 2 right here, you see, are the ones that were fired, I guess, or,
But they didn't push him, right? Doesn't somebody come up from the back?
No, they pushed him.
Really? Let's watch.
Those cops are accused of inappropriately pushing a 70.
Watch. See? It's this guy.
I don't know. I think he's... Keep playing. I'm pretty sure it's these 2 guys.
F-Stopper Snopes. Here we come.
5-year-old protester. It was.
You're right. He pushed the guy on the right, and then it seems like just.
It's like the perfect moment where they both do a movement of pushing. So I think those 2 officers were reprimanded or fired. I don't know what happened to them. But then the narrative is now, all of the police force resigned because this police brutality is too much. But that doesn't seem to be what actually happened. It seems like they're all saying this is ridiculous that those 2 guys got fired, and therefore we're resigning from doing these emergency calls.
Well, I mean, the truth is, people are probably destroying me in the comments right now, but if you could potentially be, crucified from pushing someone when literally these police are asked to go out day after day and push people back. Like, that is their job during these riots. Push them back. Don't let them cross this line, whatever. This is incredibly unfortunate. It's horrible. I look at this situation and I don't see an evil cop trying to hurt an old man. I see him pushing him, saying, you got to get back. Maybe he overreacted. Maybe this poor guy was just trying to give a helmet back. That's horrific. I can't believe that would happen, but maybe that is what happened. But, like, this guy tripped. It's not like he was picked up and slammed on the back of his head. He tripped.
He was pushed and then didn't catch his footing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's he tripped or he was pushed. It's kind of somewhere in the middle.
No, like, he would not have fallen on his head if he wasn't pushed, but,
He also has super slow reflexes to put your hand back.
Exactly. Like, obviously, like, he's a really old guy. It's just...
Well, with you keep saying the body cams come out, like, and you'll hear what he said. And what if he said, "Hey guys, like, I found your helmet here"?
Then it makes it even worse for the police, and all that has to come into consideration when this inevitably goes to trial.
But it's just so strange that a guy this old could be a threat to these cops, even if he was being like, "You assholes," like blah blah blah. Like,
I agree.
This guy's in no real position to be a threat to anybody.
Especially, as you said, when there's not another huge, dangerous crowd behind this guy.
Right.
You could see if there was a huge crowd and people are throwing bricks and there's fire and, like, you have to get out of our way, we're pushing forward to save lives or whatever. Like, that doesn't seem to be what's happening at all.
Well, David Penner says, Lee is ruining these shows now. Let's bring Mike on.
Let's see. Oh, we got lots of super chats here. Good Lord. We appreciate everybody. I got to stay up on this better.
Samuel James says 57 officers resigned because of the 2 were suspended due to this event. This is the videos we just played.
That is definitely not the way Fox News made it sound. They made it sound like they were so offended by this event.
Yeah, that's the Fox News take.
Well, again, that's my interpretation of it. Maybe other people would say no, it was very clear. But I thought they were resigning because they were so offended by the injuring of this old man that they didn't want to
on
be a
Twitter.
part of it.
There was both narratives going for sure. Because when I saw 57, I saw resigned, I saw where was this, Buffalo. All of these keywords were trending, and depending on which one I read, it was they resigned because they were disgusted. They resigned because they felt like that was unfair for the police to be, put on suspension without pay or whatever it was.
Yeah. Henry says, thought PPP is a loan on anticipated losses with WFH companies may not have lost that much, allows more time to meet the loan terms. I didn't think that it was for losses. I thought you just had to show that you had some losses, which it seems like every business, maybe aside from Amazon itself, could show that of course we've had some losses.
Everyone still can show losses. Like even if unemployment isn't as bad, like the companies aren't making as much money. There's no way the companies are making that much money. I mean, my parents are saying like the dental office is actually doing pretty well.
Really?
But all the restaurants and travel agencies and airlines, our airlines are booked up right now. They're filling flights, but they're not at their full capacity.
Sure.
So I don't think anyone's actually making the full amount back.
Carl Hancock says they resigned over 2 fellow officers being suspended, and they didn't quit the force. They quit the response team. They are still employed. Okay, interesting. Photog Mike says those 57 resigned from the position they were serving as, but are still employed, just not on riot patrol. Okay. Travelstone 3 says 57 Buffalo ERT resigned from the ERT, but they are still employed as police officers. Okay. They all quit that special response program. They are all still cops because the union said they wouldn't cover any claims against them anymore. Okay. I mean, that sounds like a great reason to not do this. Like if they want you to go up against potential rioters, but they're saying like, we're not going to back you up when shit goes down.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be a part of that either.
Well, that was my other question about this with the riot patrol. One, if you're a cop and you go and choose to be on the riot patrol, are you the most aggressive people out of the police force anyway? You're willing to go up against all these crowds of people? And then 2, if you feel like you can get paid doing other desk work, if there's still work to be had that's not riot control, wouldn't you prefer just to not deal with all that? I mean, I sure would. Maybe a lot of cops feel like this is so not threatening. Like what they do on a daily basis is so much worse than dealing with angry people just throwing stuff at you. Like you at least see them. Nobody's got a gun and going to shoot you in the street.
You don't know that.
I mean, if I was a cop, I would just be doing the paperwork.
Sam says, Lee, attorney here. In civil cases, you take the victim as you find him. Old, young, poor, balance, etc. These cops are liable. Also, they prevented aid. How did they prevent aid? Didn't the guy have aid within seconds? Wasn't there like a team of people back behind the police?
I didn't see any aid. I see them saying like he's bleeding. Oh my gosh, we need. And the rioters were like, you got to get.
I'll play the video one more time. I'm just going to play it. No,
I mean, where do you see aid even there?
I think the guys in the background in the.
Where?
The
camouflage?
Yeah, the camouflage. Come down and help them in a second, I think. I mean, I don't know.
They are radioing people and stuff, but like, I mean, they just kind of march on.
Well, hold on. I think there's more to it. Yeah, see that guy bends down.
Okay, that's the aid that you wanted?
Well, what do you expect? You expect there to be a ambulance there in 3 seconds.
Yeah, fair enough, I guess.
Oh, and I wasn't even playing the clip for everybody. Sorry, guys. But yeah, 2 guys kneel down and help him within like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. But it's not an ambulance. Let's talk about the dollar versus gold.
So pause this. Did you watch this clip? I asked you to watch it before.
Oh, sorry. No, I watched another clip about this.
So you know what the guy on the left has said about gold and the dollar and where he stands and everything to some degree?
I can't keep track of all these people, so I don't know.
This was the clip that was shared with us earlier today.
Okay.
And you said, I think your response was like this, it's the milkshake theory that the United States is sucking up all the liquidity of the dollar being the world currency, and that we are going to be the ones that benefit the most because emerging markets still have to pay people in dollars, but they are not getting access to dollars anymore. So all other currencies are crumbling, but the dollar is actually becoming stronger despite the Fed seemingly printing money, which would make you think that we are inflating our money and making it less valuable, right?
Yeah.
Well, this clip's kind of long. It's like 2 or 3 minutes, but he talks about something called credit swaps. I've never heard of this, but it's basically the way that you have the United States dollar that is the central currency of the world, right? And every other country pays in the dollar, but they can't get access to the dollar because only the Fed can print dollars for us domestically. Some countries do not get this this loan that the government will allow them, this credit swap. We do not give it to Iran. We don't give it to China. We do not give it to Russia. Probably don't give it to Venezuela. It's like a way for our government to penalize other countries by not allowing them access to the dollar. But then other countries, we can choose the rate at which they can get the dollar, and it's a way of just giving out credit. I've never heard of this, but he talks about it a little bit here, and it's just super interesting stuff that I'm always wondering what's really going on behind the scenes. We keep wondering, where's our economy, but where's the world economy? What's going to happen with the US dollar? What's going to happen with gold? What's going to happen with Bitcoin? Like, is this whole event good for the United States? Is it bad for the United States? Is it bad for all of us? Is China, like, there's all this other stuff that's under the water that we're trying to figure out what's actually happening. I just thought this was a really interesting conversation. This might be a little in the weeds for our viewers, but I just thought it was an interesting thing that I watched today.
Way into the whole swap concept, and you've got, it'd be interesting to get your take on all that.
Yeah, so it's actually ties right into what I've been talking about for the last couple of years, and that is that, I've used this analogy of the Highlander analogy, right, where you've got these 2 big immortals. You've got gold and you've got the dollar, and eventually they're going to have a battle, and eventually gold's going to win. But before we get to that battle, a lot of smaller battles are going to take place. And my point has been that until that final battle takes place, the dollar is going to run around the world and cut the head off of all these other currencies. Well, the swap lines is like the sword that the Kurgan, the big bad guy that runs around and he uses. I have always said that the dollar will be weaponized. They've weaponized the dollar in the past, but now it's really become clear to me that it's going to be weaponized because they have extended swap lines over the last month to certain countries and not extended it to other countries.
And maybe we should really explain, the whole point of this interview is to get an inner glimpse of how Brent and I talk to each other. And, we talk multiple times daily, on weekends, nights, all sorts of times. But explain what is a swap line and why it's getting zero attention anywhere. And it's like one of the most important aspects.
It is one of the most. So, well, let's take a step back from there. The reason they're important, and part of the reason that I have been so bullish the dollar, is the dollar debt in the world. So everybody talks about the 24 or 25 trillion that the US owes in dollar debt, and that's a big problem. But the real problem, the problem that has shown up in the last, call it 3 to 4 months, is the dollar debt that the rest of the world owe. And not just the dollar debt, but the ongoing funding needs, because a lot of these companies outside the United States still fund their ongoing daily businesses via dollars or euro dollars. Dollars located outside the United States are called euro dollars. And so whether you like the dollar, whether you hate the dollar, whether you think it's a good currency or bad currency, it just is the global reserve currency, and companies need it. And the reason that they have borrowed in dollars is they get a lower rate when they borrow in dollars than when they borrow in lira or reals or pesos or whatever it is. And so as this dollar shortage has intensified, and as the flow of capital has decreased, and as the velocity of money has fallen, those dollars have become harder to get. And it makes it harder for those companies in those non-US countries to get the dollars to service that dollar debt and to service those ongoing operations.
Interesting. It's definitely over my head. I don't fully understand.
It's over my head as well. I'm not going to say that I totally understand this stuff, but it's interesting, like, the older that I get, I've always wondered, like, how do people get into this stuff? It seems so boring. But the older that I get, I find this more and more fascinating. Because in this clip, this whole interview is like an hour long. They start going into Trump, and they start talking about, like, how Boeing and what's Boeing's competitor? Airbus. Airbus is a French company. How, like, these two companies are, like, the only companies really making planes in the world, and how there's a battle going on there. And if Trump can help, like, with the Fed's permission, I guess, we could penalize Airbus, and then we could have Boeing become much more successful, which would bring more jobs. And it's just like, it's such a bigger scenario than any of us really know. And the general public has no idea about this. We have no idea about this. But it's really interesting. I just find it interesting to listen to some of these financial people talk about how the world is actually working.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read that book a couple months ago that was Confessions of an Economic Hitman, it's this sort of stuff. It's how can we manipulate the dollar? And how can we punish Venezuela because we want a certain leader to be the next president? And maybe they take this credit line, and then I think they say, like, very soon in that clip, they take this credit line and they secure it, this credit swap, but then they put the other person in power after they did this deal with us, you know? So then I'm sure we're going to come back and try to penalize them. But it was just, the guy on the right is from Canada, and he was just saying how bad Canada is right now. Like, their dollar, I mean, I remember in the 90s, I lived in Alaska, like, $1 from the U.S. and $1 from Canada at some point felt like they were even.
Mm-hmm.
If you had like, we'd get their coins all the time and it'd be no big deal. But now, for $1, it's 1.6, maybe it's $1.4 Canadian dollars. The Canadian dollar is getting much weaker. And he was just saying how, I think he said Vancouver is going, like, totally bankrupt. A lot of places are bankrupt, but this video is maybe a month old now. So I need to look into what happened there. But he's just saying Canada and then Australia. They're saying Australia is going to get killed because their currencies just aren't that valuable in the world, you know, throughout the world. And their big trade agreements with China, and as that gets crumbled, as we've seen, that a lot of these countries are going to really be struggling, but the dollar is actually going to benefit the most. And so it's just interesting because a lot of people are thinking, like, should I buy stocks? Should I hold on to the dollar? Should I buy gold? And he definitely says in multiple interviews that eventually gold will win out. The dollar in the United States will collapse at some point. All countries do. All currencies do. But it's like the dollar is right above gold. Everything funnels down to gold through the dollar. Mm-hmm. And for the dollar to collapse and for gold to ultimately win out, it would be like the end of the world where all currencies, and we are at, like, the worst of times.
It's really scary. Here's a really heartwarming video. We'll go full screen. Look at this girl. Beautiful model.
Going photographer. I mean, they're like, are they two models just hanging pictures of themselves?
I don't know. But this was viral on Twitter today. Just taking, like, fashion photos in the middle of the protest. It's so ridiculous. Let's see what else we got. Mexico is having crazy riots. Have you seen these videos? This shit is horrifying. Oh my gosh, it's like worse in Mexico. I mean, look at the police with, like, boards and stuff beating people. And then this video.
Wait, that's the video that you're trying to tell me makes it look worse than America?
Just watch.
Whoa.
How crazy is that? So, I mean, that he's on fire for a long time, just rolling around back there.
Yeah. Somebody gave us a clip. I don't know if it was on Twitter. Somebody sent us a clip where they were like, remember when you guys were showing the clips from Uganda where my buddy is, and cops were beating people on the bikes?
Mm-hmm.
they had a clip of a New Yorker beating a guy on a bike, and it's like the exact police officer with a baton just like beating some dude who's riding his bike, and it's like, how did we get from 2 months ago being like, look how crazy Uganda is trying to keep their citizens inside because of coronavirus, to today when New York police officers are beating U.S. citizens with very similar sticks under slightly similar circumstances?
I would hope that the police have more of a reason than just the guy's out and about.
I mean,
hopefully
he could have been breaking curfew, or he could just be part of the protester. I mean, you're seeing all these videos of cops just beating people just because. I mean, the couple that was tasered in their car, it seems like they were out past curfew.
Yeah.
But everybody else was out past curfew. And then all of a sudden, like, they just break the windows and taser them and pull. It's like insanity.
Yeah, I mean, that's not exactly what happened. They told him to get out of the car and he kind of drove away. Then they tasered his girlfriend and broke the windows.
But it's because he filmed somebody. It just feels like they weren't serving and protecting. They were just flat out acting like a military force, you know?
I agree 100%. Darren H. says, where can I find the video on credit swap stuff?
I think I put it, did I put it in this link? The link of this video?
I don't know.
It is in there. I will put another link to the shorter video. That there's like a 20-minute video of this guy speaking about this whole idea, and that's what I saw earlier today. I believe that's the video you watched. And then I found out that was a year ago, and I was like, well, what happened?
Yeah.
So then I found this video, which is a month ago when the oil collapsed. And so he's still talking about it in the midst of COVID, and he's saying this is actually going to increase that, you know? And if I look at some of the ETFs that follow the dollar, could you explain this? I've always been under the assumption that if you hold dollars, over time, inflation will slowly chip away at your dollar. That it will be less in a year or 10 years than it is today. But when I look at these ETFs that are for the dollar, in the last 10 years, they're going up. They're worth more now than they were 10 years ago. So unless there's something going on with the ETF, because it has to grow more. Like an ETF is going to lose some money because they manage it to some degree, right? So for that to grow, it made it seem like, is the dollar deflating and the dollar is more valuable today?
No, obviously not.
Obviously not. Why not? Can the dollar?
Because everything costs more.
Well, maybe we're looking at two different things. Maybe this is the value of the dollar compared to other currencies in the world versus what can the dollar buy you if you were to go out and spend it.
Don't know. Foot Talk Mike says that video supports why we need the wall, Lee. Don't know if that's a joke or not. Hopefully that's a joke.
Not everything's more expensive.
Lots of products are cheaper, but for the most part, services and everything have gone up in price. Houses have gone up in price.
Houses, like healthcare.
Yeah. I mean, products are cheaper because it's literally cheaper to make them. iComplainer says, the on-air fart 5 minutes ago. Did you fart?
No. Who was that? On-air fart 5 minutes ago.
I didn't either. Don't know what he's talking about. Let's see. Next round of PPP.
Dude, that would be great, though. To fart really bad and just not say anything, and then like it drifts and you get your reaction.
The show would be over. I'd just walk out.
You just leave?
Yeah.
2-week recess beginning July 3rd, however, that's less than a month away, is pushing any action until after July 20th. Joining me right now is Louisiana Congressman, House Minority Whip, Steve Scalise. Congressman, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Morning. Morning. Always good to be with you, Maria.
So where are you? Where are you and your colleagues on the next round of relief?
Well, again, we're still working on the $2+ trillion that's already out there, making sure that it works well. You just saw earlier this week, the Senate passed the bill, the House passed last week, to make even more reforms and improvements to the Paycheck Protection Program. That should probably get signed by President Trump today. That's going to help a lot of American small businesses who hopefully are going to be able to come through this and start opening up more fully in the next few weeks. And so, that's something that we were all able to come together to pass, very bipartisan. Some of these things that you're hearing out there, like bailing out failed states, that's not going to happen. And we've just got to work right now on getting our economy back open, Maria. When you talk about the jobs reports that are very dire, we also know that we're starting to see businesses come back. That's where our focus needs to be, is helping them come out of this, to bring jobs back, to restore the American dream that's lost for so many people, that needs to get back in place.
so much conversation about what the relief should look like. And then there's also a conversation taking place that, well, let's see how the CARES Act works out before we start talking about another relief package. You said that the president will be signing today into law the changes for the PPP program, and that includes a longer amount of time for the business to have the loans, and they have more flexibility in terms of how much money will go to their employees versus how much they can spend on other things like overhead. Is that right, Congressman?
That's correct. You go from 8 weeks up to 24 weeks to utilize it, because we did see the recovery was expected to move quicker. And of course, many states were later in opening up phase one. And so let's give them more opportunity to come back there. And then on the payroll side, as businesses were forced in many states to shut down even longer, their employees weren't coming back. And of course, we saw with the $600 per week. So let's give them more flexibility so that they can at least utilize that money. If more employees weren't coming back, they shouldn't be penalized for that. So this helps a lot.
All right, this is really long. Summarize, Patrick.
I mean, we already talked about this. This should have come way earlier. But this is just talking about the next round of PPP. Like, are we going to need it if the virus comes back? But then this idea of, how are we going to forgive this stuff? And we've already talked about some of that. Like,
yeah.
It seems like they have extended it to 24 extra weeks. And I think this is the same clip that you had. Have we gone through everything already?
Yeah, we've seen every video. Let me just double check and make sure it's the same clip.
One more way in which the economy in this case is confounded some, and the market's had it right.
Yep.
Yep, same clip, except you made it 3 minutes and 50 seconds.
Well, I thought this guy, the other guy, I thought had an interesting bit of information, but the only other thing I have to really talk about is, have you seen this Lady G trending?
I did. It's so funny. For the first time ever today on Twitter, right before we went live, I checked out the trending tab because you showed me how to do that. And I was like, Lady G, #1, what is this? And it's basically saying that Lindsey Graham is gay, but not just that he's gay, but he's hired hundreds of secret sex workers, and he tells them to call him Lady G? Is that what it was?
I don't know, but he's given, the claim is that he has made them all sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and that they are all now threatening, if we all band together, could we possibly
he
release
can't sue us all.
Well, and then there's, these conspiracy theories go so far as saying that, Russia knows about this. And because it does seem strange, you can watch videos of some of these GOP guys who are so anti-Trump, and then something happens to them, and now it's like Lindsey Graham is the biggest megaphone for Donald Trump ever. The stuff he says is so crazy. But if you go back 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, he was an opponent of Trump.
Yeah, he hated Trump.
You also see that with, who was the guy that ran against him, who didn't drop out for the longest time from Texas? Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz was like that too,
Lion Ted.
I mean, didn't Trump start to say that, Lion Ted's dad assassinated Kennedy or something?
There was, crazy
and
stuff like that.
And something about his wife, there was other stuff about Ted Cruz's
Yeah, and he was
wife.
like, you can talk about me, but if you talk about my wife, we'll go out back and have a good old-fashioned fist fight.
Suddenly now, it's like Ted Cruz is BFFs with Trump.
I know.
It makes me wonder,
so weird.
Is it just all falling on political lines and there's so much at stake that they have to do that? Because it seems like Mitt Romney is one guy who hasn't done that.
I know. I have so much respect for him. I just wish everybody could just, think for themselves.
Yeah.
But like you said, maybe there's more going on behind the scenes, and they're like, if we don't band together right now, maybe we're going to lose our jobs or something.
If Lindsey Graham, who seems to be super homophobic, is found out to be having gay sex with all these prostitutes.
Is he married?
Yeah. No. I don't. Is Lindsey Graham one who's never married? I think he's not married, and people always question why have you never found a life partner? And so I think there's been speculation about.
No, it's not as egregious if that's the case.
Maybe not.
But I do love Lady G. That's a good name. I'm gonna call you Lady P.
Do you feel like Trump is winning and securing his re-election bid, or do you feel like it's slipping away from him?
So I was talking to two friends today, and I was having one conversation with one of my friends who really despises Trump, and he always likes asking me if my parents' opinion of Trump has changed.
Yeah.
As Trump appears to become more and more insane and more outrageous. Are my parents changing their opinion? And I don't think so. I try not to talk to them about it because it kind of upsets me. Like, I feel like they are some of the most moral people I've ever met in my life, and they've taught me my whole life what it is to be a good person and an honest person. And Trump appears to be the opposite of that. And I understand liking Trump's positions on things. I mean, I would consider myself to be a conservative in many ways, but he just seems like a really immoral person.
Right.
And my parents seem to be able to just completely
dismiss that. And
and just act like, no, they always like to say, he's just a New Yorker. I'm like, what? I know lots of people from New York, and not a single person that I associate with acts like that and is vindictive and lies. And anyway, so my buddy always, he's like, do your parents still like Trump? And I'm like, yeah, I think so. And then I said, do you feel like Trump is, because of this COVID-19 thing, do you feel like he has a better or worse chance of getting reelected? And he was like, I feel like a worse chance because look at what a horrible job he's done. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of see that. But on the other hand, I kind of feel like maybe he has a better chance. You know, he's been on TV more often. Every time I see this fake news stuff where I feel like he's being treated unfairly by the media, it kind of pushes me more towards him, and I'm not a fan of him.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know, if you're going to lie about him, then maybe, you know, now I can't trust what you're saying, and I want to go and listen to Trump more to see exactly what he's saying. So we were both, I kind of said this to him, and he was like, well, maybe you're right. Maybe I just hate him so much that I'm like incapable of seeing this other outlook that a lot of Trump fans and people who might be like on the fence or whatever are feeling. And then I talked to another friend today, a Puerto Rican friend who's currently in the States. And I was talking about, I think we were talking about unemployment or like the stock market or whatever. And he was like, Lee, the reason that you are so dumbfounded by like, what did the stock market do today? Like up 2.5% or something? It's crazy. He was like, if you were in the States, you would completely understand why. He was like, everything is back to normal. It feels like everything is back to normal here. And in Puerto Rico, it's still crazy, lockdown, masks everywhere, everything's still closed. But in the States, nobody's wearing a mask. Everybody's doing the same stuff. They're going to parties, they're going to bars, they're going to restaurants. So he was just saying that it made a lot more sense to him being back in the States, which I found interesting.
Well, a lot of people, they constantly say, you know, the stock market isn't the economy. You know, and maybe I would say, well, it's an indicator of where the economy is going. But going back to the money thing, it could be that, like, if other economies are really, really struggling, I mean, they're talking about China going into, like, major recession. Somebody was talking about, like, how much of the property, and I think the guy in the interview was talking about this later, was that much of Vancouver's property is owned by Chinese. So like, there's all of this world play going on, but if the world could go in a recession, I mean, we're seeing negative interest rates all over Europe. You know, people are speculating the euro and the European Union could break. Countries could start trying to get out, you know, because they feel like other countries aren't holding up their end of the deal, and we're already seeing Brexit, all this stuff. Like, if all of that happens, one of the areas that could benefit the most is U.S. stocks. Maybe everyone is flocking into U.S. equities because our economy might not be back where it was 2 or 3 months ago, but these companies are safe havens if you're an investor, and especially if you're in a country where you're like, I don't know that my land might be taken from me by my government.
But you can still buy bonds and treasuries and gold and stuff. You don't have to buy stock
I think the
in an
yields
airline.
Are just so you're gonna buy whatever has the greatest yield.
Yeah, of course, but they believe the yields are going to be higher. I don't think that. I feel like
Do you think airlines could get worse than where they are now? I mean, they can if they go bankrupt, but...
No, I feel like there will be more flights. Things will get better.
Yeah.
But and I am not an educated person when it comes to being able to value companies, but everything that I've heard from people talking about these airlines is like the airlines were in trouble anyway. They already had so much debt. They were already overbought to begin with. And now they've dropped, what are we down now, like 40% or something from their highs?
Yeah.
Like that's not that significant for how incredibly hard they have been hit with this. And it's going to be a year or two before things get back to where they were. So if you just consider that, then the prices still don't make sense currently. That's my hypothesis. Now maybe we're all just going to start traveling around the world in the next 3 months and everything's going to go back to normal. I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
I've been getting more and more messages from Germans, and they're like, Lee, I want you to know it is not remotely true that things are back to normal in Germany.
Did you send me an article, or somewhere I saw an article today that said that OpenTable, that number was right, that OpenTable's numbers are back to where they were?
Well, maybe, like, I'm just going to speculate and try to make sense of this. Maybe it's because you have to have a reservation because these restaurants, most of them are closed, and the few that are open have 25% capacity. So normally you would just walk in, but you can't do that anymore, so you have to make a reservation. Nobody wants to call. Everybody learns to use OpenTable. So maybe that's why. But the way that they are throwing that statistic around makes it sound like, oh, everybody's just going to restaurants the exact same as they were 6 months ago. And everybody's saying that's not true at all.
The only other COVID thing that I have is another link in the description. And it's this study coming out of France, I believe. You have a tab up here open. Basically, they come to the conclusion that 10% of people that have diabetes will die of COVID. They are saying that 20% of people...
No. First study, COVID patients with diabetes show that 10% will die within 7 days of hospital admission. That's huge. That's totally different than 10% of people with it.
Right. People. Well, yeah, you're right. The people that go into the hospital die of it. I mean, it's a huge... It's just...
You can call me Professor Snopes.
I mean, there's just... this is one of those underlying conditions that's affecting a lot more people than they thought originally.
Sure.
That if you have diabetes, like that's one of those instances, and you're over a certain age, maybe it's 60 or 70, you are in a very high risk category, which is my mom. I mean, my mom's gone through being diabetic at times. I think the other thing that it said was it didn't matter how you're treating it. So if you have a high, like a really crazy blood sugar level or not so crazy blood sugar level, it didn't really matter at all. It was the fact that you were diabetic at all.
Interesting. Got a couple more super chats here. Photog Mike says, why is always Russia, Russia, Russia? I have no clue what you're talking about, Photog Mike. Photog Mike, we love you, but you're the worst super chatter in super chat history.
Well, he left that comment like 20 minutes ago.
We never even mentioned Russia, did we?
I think we were talking about Lindsey Graham and the Russia P-tapes and...
Oh, did you mention that?
I mean, maybe not the P-tape, but I was talking about...
Did you mention Russia?
I think so.
Okay.
Like maybe Russia has something over him. Why was he suddenly like anti-Trump, and then now he's like the biggest?
Photog Mike, I would like to apologize. JB Bowden says Trump holding a Bible is like a nun holding a, I think he said dildo. He texted me this the other day.
Did Trump really hold, like, I know I had a lot of friends back from Alabama that are big Christian people, and they were, like, that was the turning point for them. They were like, I can't do this anymore.
Really?
Yeah. They were like, Trump does not believe in the Bible. Well, what did I say like months ago? It was like he said 1 Corinthian. It's like he doesn't even know the names of the book of the Bible.
Yeah.
And anyway, like I've just seen this idea in the Christian community back home is they were just pissed off that like he is not a Christian. He does not believe in the word, the Bible. And he's out doing these photo shoots. Did he hold the Bible both backwards and upside down?
So I read that headline. I couldn't tell in the video clip.
You've seen the picture of like Hitler holding the Bible exactly the same way that Trump's holding the Bible?
Yeah, I've seen that.
I mean, I guess if you hold the Bible enough times, like you're bound to have an image that looks the same. But.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my parents have told me, at least my dad, my mom will stick up for Trump no matter what he does. But my dad has said, I do not believe he is a Christian. And I'm like, wow. So you admit that he's lying about being a Christian, but you're okay with that.
Yeah.
But he's like, I hope that he comes to faith. But I do not believe that he is currently a Christian. So I haven't asked my dad what his thoughts are about posing in front of the church with the Bible. But my mom called me about it because she was very upset that CNN treated Trump unfairly in that situation. She was like, I was watching Fox News. He was taking a very symbolic image in front of a church. I thought it was nice. And then I switched over to CNN, and they were raking him over the coals because he did it. And I don't know. Again, you know, I try not to jump to conclusions with anything. When I saw Trump with the Bible, that's not that offensive to me. I wasn't like, oh my gosh. I do not think Trump is a legitimate Christian.
But what was the purpose of that picture? It was to make his base feel like he's still there with us.
Maybe, or it's just to show like peace or like how important religion is right now. I don't know, but I'm not going to act like, my God, how dare he do that? I just feel like it's another silly thing Trump does on a daily basis, but I'm not offended by it like everybody on CNN was. But my mom thought it was like maybe a glorious moment or something. I didn't think it was that either. I just felt like, here's Trump doing something else that's crazy. I don't know. Let's see. Carl says, I'm in a similar situation as Lee with my parents. Same story. It's part of why I hate Trump so much. Have to avoid politics with them. It sucks. Yeah, it's really weird.
Wait, he hates Trump so much because he hates his parents? Am I drawing a...
I don't think that's what he's saying. He hates Trump so much because his parents seem to blindly follow Trump no matter how outrageous
that's a better story
the
than
things he
what I was
does
going
are. Yeah, it's very weird. And, you know, I'm sure we all have a tendency as we get older to like dig in with our beliefs in politics and stuff. Yeah. But
also, as you get older and you have more wealth in retirement, you tend to like people who don't tax you as much on it. So
sure. I mean, I'm all for lower taxes. I mean, I have no problem with that. But I'm also for smaller government and more fiscal responsibility. And
Trump did not deliver on either.
Exactly. So it's like I am not for lowering taxes and increasing spending. That is the opposite of what a conservative position is. So it seems like I would be, lying to myself by pretending that like Trump is what I always wanted in a conservative leader. I don't know. Sam Smith, Team Lee for Prez, Team Patrick for First Lady. Just kidding. Lady P, First Lady. Lady P. Photog Mike, I was on insulin the entire time I was in the hospital. And Photog Mike says, oh, I am also not a diabetic. So,
Thunderbird,
I don't know what that means.
Thunderbird says, 2 Corinthians says, Satan masquerades as an angel of light.
Yeah.
So there is that.
Touche Film says, been out for a few days, just overwhelmed. Chile is being hit hard with COVID and really upset about things in the U.S., feeling really anxious. Touche, you need to come to Puerto Rico. Come visit. Things are pretty chill here right now. Not much going on.
Chris, have you gotten notice yet if you can leave the country? Weren't you telling us that you still can't leave until the embassy or something says that you're able to go?
Like who would be stopping him?
I don't know. I don't know the whole situation.
I wonder, could the the United States can't block him because he's a citizen.
Yeah, it would be like you have to stay there and work or something.
Because he's a government official in Chile?
I believe so.
Interesting. All right, anything you have to talk about, Patrick? Should we call it?
I'm good to call it.
Good Lord. Once again, an hour and 40 minutes. How do we do this every freaking day? All right, guys. Good to see everybody. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe. This is our new F Stoppers Live YouTube channel. We will see you tomorrow.